everyone, it's Melissa and Stephen Woods. We're back with another topic concerning influencer finance, and this time we're going to talk about management. So many people ask the question, should I get management, when they are afraid to negotiate for themselves with brands, they feel like they're not getting enough sponsored work, or they just think that that's what all the cool kids do. Well, I've had an experience with several different management companies, and I'd like to speak to that today, as well as kind of talk about standard rates so that nobody out there is getting taken advantage of.
And talk about what a management agency is at a higher level and why they even exist. The really important thing to note is that as an individual influencer, when you're small enough, you don't have a lot of negotiating power on your own to go reach out to a large brand, a well-known brand, someone we all know, and say, hey, I'd like to work with you, because that brand has such a large marketing budget. They're not going to want to sit there and negotiate with every single person a unique deal with unique terms. They want that to be streamlined. Management agencies have evolved both on the brand side, so a brand wanting to work with a management company so that they can go find influencers for that brand, and also from an influencer side, because influencers oftentimes aren't salespeople. They don't want to have to deal with reaching out to lots of different companies to have to work with them to negotiate. They're not legal experts, so they don't want to go through contract negotiation terms. And so there's two sides, both the brand side and the influencer side, that have created this need for management agencies to exist.
Yeah, and I would use a metaphor of like when you're purchasing a house, there is such a complexity that happens there and so much paperwork and, areas where negotiating, you really would like someone to represent you. That's very much what management has become. Both the brand will often have a marketing agency and the influencer or creator will have a management agency. And then those two entities represent the two who are really doing business, and they take a cut of whatever money is exchanged. Very much like a buyer's agent and a seller's agent in a real estate transaction. A lot of times certain agencies have certain specialties. So I've worked with agencies that really represent only DIYers. There's other ones out there that represent only food bloggers, etc. Those specialties will help them make strong connections with brands that are applicable to the niche you're creating content in. This can be an advantage, but it also can be tricky when everyone else that management agency is representing is really like your competitor. That management agency has to decide which creator they're going to offer these gigs from these brands and which campaigns they're going to assign certain influencers. So you have to really stand out as a creator, being timely, effective communicating, delivering on the brief without a lot of edits, etc. You have to do those things to set yourself apart and really get a lot of work from your management team. So what are some reasons that you would want to reach out and seek management? You don't have to wait for an inbound email from management agencies. If you have one in mind that's specific to your niche, that's going to be your best bet. You want to go for them. They're going to have relationships with the brands that you want to work with. You might want to reach out and secure management if you feel as though you are really struggling to negotiate deals. If you're not getting enough sponsored work, you want more on your plate. If you are worried about contracts and the legality of getting into an agreement with a big brand, a lot of times there's so much legal jargon in those contracts that you're signing off on that it can just be kind of a comfort to know if you have a management team looking through it. And then the last reason you might want to consider management is that a lot of times management agencies have so much experience and work with so many hundreds of creators that they really have industry standards and can help you price yourself, make sure that you're not underselling yourself, garner you a higher wage for your work. And they have access to brands that you might not otherwise be able to negotiate with. Like Stephen was talking about earlier, a lot of brands are totally closed off to individuals reaching out to them, and they only work through agencies.
So Melissa, is there an industry standard for what an agency is going to take on the influencer side?
Yeah, I would say 20% is the most common I've come across. I've also come across 15%. and I have an agency currently working for me at 10%. Obviously, you want to negotiate that if you can. The bigger you are, the more leverage you have in that arena. And I think this is especially important when you consider the niche you're in. For me, in DIY home improvement, the function of an agency is not 20% of the work to put out a video because my projects are so labor intensive. Now, obviously, this wouldn't apply to you if you're, say, a vlogger or a lifestyle content creator. Those are a little more straightforward, and having management would really, steady your workflow and kind of help mitigate some of the inbox because so many management companies will take care of like every inbound deal that's pitched to you and negotiate those to ends, which frees up a lot of your time.
Melissa, what type of companies are management companies typically going to bring you?
I would say that the most common are non-endemic sponsors. And if you watched our previous video differentiating between endemic and non-endemic, you know that this is a sponsor who's going to have a very standardized CPM, usually a lower rate than endemic, and they're going to be someone who's open to multiple deals, like multiple videos, a brand who kind of works with everybody, like the Squarespace, the HelloFresh, etc. That's the most common brand that would work through management. Now, that's not to say all management companies are the same, because some will really do outbound outreach for you. So why don't we get into that? Why don't we get into the characteristics of a really good management company, like what you should be looking for if you're seeking management. So characteristics of a good management company would include, for me personally, the lowest percentage possible. So if you can negotiate less than 20%, which is the industry standard, great. If a management company is charging you more than 20%, you should push back. The second characteristic would be that they're willing to do outbound reach for you. Like if they ask you what brands you really want to work with, and then they pitch you to those brands, that's a really good sign. So many management companies only take inbound, and that's basically like your secretary. They're not really an agent out there working for you to get you more money. They're just handling what's already coming to you anyway. The third thing I would say with management is prompt communication. I feel as though like a 2-day business turnaround for emails would be my maximum if I'm reaching out and asking a question. And that is simply because a lot of times these deals have deadlines. It's down to the wire, and there is nothing worse than not being able to get a hold of your communicator, the go-between person facilitating a deal, when the deadline is like tomorrow. You want an agency that's very easy to get a hold of. The fourth thing you really want to pay attention to is your contract timeline. A lot of times management companies will make you sign up for a 12-month contract to work with them, and they have kind of stickler ways for you to get out of that. So let's say you sign up and the first couple months you're not getting fed nearly as many deals, and it's kind of a headache that you don't have as much access to your email, and you decide this was a mistake and I want to get out of this. Well, know before you sign up what the contract says about how to exit with this management company. So many of them lock you into like 60 days, like a 60-day exit plan, right? And then you have 2 more months that you have to continue to feed this management company 20% of what you'd be making without them. I don't think any of them intend to be predatory. They're trying to stabilize their own business. But if you are just an individual advocating for yourself, you want to make sure you're not signing up for something that you're going to regret.
As someone who worked in the marketing and advertising space in an agency format, not in the influencer space, I can tell you that a great agency doesn't need to lock you in. They're going to wow you with their work. They're not going to wow you with their contract.
Oh, I so agree. I love that.
So I wanted to talk about a couple questions that you should ask every management agency that comes across that you're considering using. The first one is, what is their annual retention rate of their clients? So what that is if they get 100 clients a year in year 1, how many of them are still working with them in year 2? That's a really important metric, right? That's where your work speaks for itself. If they have a very high retention rate, and I would say most agencies are going to have between a 70 and 80% retention rate. You want to target an agency with a 90% or more retention rate. That signals that their customers are super happy. Question 2 is, can I talk to people you're working with? Can I get a referral? Referrals are the number one thing that you should be looking for in evaluating a management company. If a company is not willing to give you a referral or doesn't have anybody who is willing to speak on their behalf about their experience, then they don't have anybody. They haven't had anybody who's good enough that they are a raving fan. So you want to ask for referrals. If they say no, run for the hills.
We talked about the percentage, the industry standard percentage that management takes. We talked about reasons that someone would want to seek management. Now I want to talk about a key point of management, which is exclusivity. In the management companies that I've worked with, I've never signed up for exclusivity. And the main reason is because exclusivity means every single deal that you do as a content creator, the management company is owed their percentage, whether that be 20%, 15%, etc. Every single deal, even ones that you brought in yourself. Management agencies have become more and more like gray about this. A lot of times you can negotiate this exclusivity with like specific brands ahead of time that you name. So let's say that I signed up for an exclusive agreement with a management company, but I said, I have always worked with this brand for years and years. We work together every year. And so this brand, I want to be separate from our agreement. Like a lot of management agencies nowadays do allow that if you name a brand ahead of time. But otherwise, all the deals that you're getting are going to be, you're going to be paying 20% to your management. And that includes ones that come directly to you. So let's say your management took over your email inbox, but then a brand reaches out to you via DM on Instagram and you start the ball rolling. Well, you have to send that over through your management. You have to give negotiations up to your management. And that is what an exclusive like agreement is with a management company. Exclusivity can also mean, of course, that you're not working with other management companies. You can't have multiple management agencies kind of out there working for you, trying to feed you deals so that they get their cut.
So Melissa talked about working with an agency in an exclusive capacity, but our experience has been that a lot of agencies will work with you in a non-exclusive capacity. And what that means is that when they give you their pitch, they ask you for exclusivity, they want you to sign on the dotted line, you simply say, I'm not willing to work with you exclusively. We've found that a lot of them will come back and say, okay, can we just send you deals non-exclusively? Which is really great, because then there is no obligation, there is no contract, and you will still get deals from that management company. And you'll just be able to say yes or no to while you're doing your own thing.
Obviously, they won't tell you ahead of time that they're going to offer that, but that's just what I found in my experience. So right now I have 3 different management agencies that are working for me in a non-exclusive capacity, and they feed me deals each month, and I just say yes or no, and it's great. I've really enjoyed it. However, the benefit of working in an exclusive capacity is that it's a lot more customer service. Like it's very much more tailored to you, your brand. And I would say that you probably land bigger fish. There are definitely certain management agencies that if they reached out to me and said, I want to work with you in an exclusive capacity, I would say yes, because they're very well known in my niche, and I would be honored that they would represent me. So that's not to say that all management agencies should work in a non-exclusive way. Totally understand the benefits of both. Leave a comment below if you learned something in this video regarding influencer management. We hope it was helpful for you. Don't forget to follow and subscribe our channel so that you don't miss our next video, and thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.